understand who the fuck I am on this US land. I let my hair grow, then I cut it off. Put a couple lines in it, cause you know I'm never coming soft. I do a lot of shows and I get a lot of stares. I got a lot of haters, but really who cares?
Episode 15 of Mitch, please. Did you Mitch me? Because I mitched you guys. It's been a month, but we're back, and we're better than ever. We've got a great show for you guys. Today, Zack Reeb is returning to the show. We got a lot to talk about. This show is going to be based around Pro Championship Wrestling Off the Chain. It's an event that started in 2011. It's an event that I actually named. I'm actually very proud of that. Pro Championship Wrestling had an event entitled Chain Reaction, and then we decided to run it Off the Wall Arena in Chico. At that point, I decided, you know what, Off the Wall, let's call it Off the Chain. It sounds current. It sounds like something Dr. Dre would produce. So, Off the Chain was born in 2011 in Chico, California, and it lives on. And I'll give you guys a little history on PCW Off the Chain. I mean, so much great history, great memories for me personally, but just off the top of my head here, of course, never any notes, no notes, Mr. No Notes, they call me. Jody Kristofferson won the PCW Inter-California Championship at the very first Off the Chain. It was his first singles championship, and as we talked about on episode 14, I mean, Jody cried, man. He broke down. That meant a lot to him. So that happened at the first Off the Chain. Off the Chain 2012 was the first year we decided to do 2 steel cage matches. I can't remember whose idea that was. I know TNA Lockdown kind of had something similar where they would do a whole show and it would be all cage matches. But with Off the Chain 2012, the decision was made, let's get the cage in there. PCW had only had one prior cage match, and that was in 2011 with Rick and Zack. That was at Extreme Measures, though. It was a great match. I believe you can find it on the PCW YouTube channel. But in 2012, we brought in the steel cage, thanks to Sparkey Ballard and Gold Rush Pro Wrestling, and I believe they're doing something very similar in October, having 2 cage matches, close the show out. And that night it was Dylan Drake and Rick Luxury for the PCW Championship, and MPT and James Haight tore the house down in a steel cage match. Now in 2013 was the last documented time as of right now that there was a cage match in Pro Championship Wrestling. There was 2 of them. Matt Carlos defended the PCW Championship against Dylan Drake, and then myself and Shupe Shellhammer went in there against Rick Luxury and Zack Primetime Reeb, Mr. Primetime, whatever he calls himself these days. And, we tore it down as well. And I, in fact, got thrown off the top of the cage and crashed down onto my elbow. My elbow to this day is still smashed up a little bit from that Off the Chain in 2013. 2014 was an Off the Chain that would bring PCW back to Chico after almost a year and a half of not running in Chico. I again, was like, you know what? We need to get back in Chico. And I put a lot on the line for that show, Off the Chain 2014, and it was probably the hardest and most motivated, the hardest I've ever worked and the most motivated I've ever been. I mean, newspapers, news, just promoting, pursuing comedy as well, promoting wrestling through comedy. Just so much. I was really, really active. It was a time in my life where I just can't believe I was doing what I was doing. I was working all night, cleaning floors at Safeway, sleeping a couple hours, and then hitting the streets and promoting and training. And I mean, it was crazy. That night, myself and Rick Luxury became the PCW Tag Team Champions. We were, of course, unlikely tag team partners and rivals, and it was a fun night. It was a hard night, a very tough, frustrating Off the Chain, which would lead into Off the Chain 2015, and that was, without a doubt, the biggest moment in my pro wrestling career so far. Go out there in the main event and challenge my trainer, MPT, Mr. Primetime, Zack Primetime Reeb, for the PCW Heavyweight Championship, and the build-up to that, and, I've spoke about this before, that was supposed to be my last match. I was going to take a break after that. And then I got in the ring with the Classic Connection a month or 2 prior, and we had a great match, and it was decided that I was going to be the next champion. So that's what happened, and it's a night that I'll never forget. It was amazing, and Off the Chain this year is going to be amazing. I'm going to talk more about Off the Chain 2016, the Off the Chain that's coming up this Saturday, October 15th, back at that historic Oroville Municipal Auditorium. I'm going to talk more about that after we cut to this interview with Zack Reeb. Let's get on over to it. So we're back here at the infamous PCW Work Farm in Oroville, California. I have a returning guest. In fact, he's the highest rated, most viewed guest in Mitch Please history. He is my trainer. He is Mr. Prime Time, Zack Reeb. Zack, welcome back to the show.
What up? What up?
Hey, brother. So we left off, man, in 2006, where really it was the first year of PCW coming to Oroville. Now, what I want to know, man, what everybody out there wants to know, like, why did you, because PCW was in Yuba City, Marysville for like 7, 8, 9 years. So what gave you the idea to bring Pro Championship Wrestling to Oroville?
That's a funny story. What happened was I had gone to Japan. I went to Dragon Gate for 6 weeks. When I was there, I didn't have, my Metro didn't work there, so I had no way to get in contact with anybody. I called my parents a few times, and when I took the plane back from Narita and took it back to the SFO, I believe it was. I left from the LAX, I came back to the SFO, I turned my phone on and I had like 150 messages. And all the messages were the boys and the workers and everybody saying, hey, you know, I want to get booked on that municipal auditorium show in Oroville. And I'm thinking, what the fuck, man? What the fuck are they talking about? And I didn't know what they were talking about, so I went, back in the day it was PCW-wrestling.com. So I went there, and there was a picture of Scotty Aboot, the NWA California PCW heavyweight champion, in a suit, in front of a banner at the old work farm, and old school Oliver John was across from him, and it said, just signed for Oroville, Extreme Measures, PCW heavyweight championship match. So the only thing I could think of at the time was, I need to get a hold of James Haight, because I didn't know what was going on. I've been gone for 6 weeks. I called AJ Kirsch. He was running the work farm. Skits was locked up. I didn't really know what to do, so I called James and I said, hey, man, I said, what? There's a show in Oroville for PCW? I said, what's going on? He said, oh, yeah, I booked a show in Oroville. And I'm like, you booked a show in Oroville? And my thought first to him was like, are you paying for this shit? And he's like, well, no. So once again, I get, you know, I'm running this company. I gotta pay the bill. This is going on. And we came down here, and I remember we drew like a little over 300 that first time, and it was just such a hot crowd, and everyone was into it. And back in the day, the auditorium shared the parking lot with the Montgomery Street Pub. Dave and Tip, our main sponsors, great sponsors for 5-6 years. You know about them.
Yeah, I got to cut you off, man, because someone has to know. But seriously, like September 30th, 2006, right? That was the first show, the first date in Oroville, and it's like you live in Loma Rica, Marysville. Like, how'd you promote the show?
We came down to Oroville. And we just, as a matter of fact, if I really think about it, I think I had been taking you around and wrestling at all these shows, because you had come into the work farm when I was gone, and you've been training with AJ and Oliver John. And then when I came back, I worked with you for a couple weeks, and we had to close the work farm down there, and financial reasons. And I was taking you on the road with me, and I remember you just telling me, you're like, hey man, I'll help you. I'll help you. We'll go pass these flyers out. We'll put these up. You show me how to get sponsors, do all this stuff, and that's how we promoted. Me and you.
The first show though, man, actually I can't take any credit. That was not me. I think that was you and Phil promoting really hard. I wasn't quite on board yet, because September 30th, 2006, Zach, at the Municipal Auditorium was the first ever like non-WWE show that I ever went to. I showed up early. Scoot Robertson showed up like 10 minutes after me. We waited. We set up the ring. I didn't know what the hell to expect. You actually put me in charge of the damn tickets at the door, so I'm taking everybody's money at the door with tickets. I'm freaking out. I got a box full of cash. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my, I can't believe this guy trusts me with, you know, and it just, so amazing experience for me, man, like straight up. Like your Why We Thugs song was stuck in my head for like a month after, like just, it really hit me hard because it was my first show. But I mean, what did you feel, man, going out there in front of that Oroville crowd for the first time?
You know, it was a hot crowd. Every PCW crowd was always a hot crowd, but when we came here, I just knew. I knew right out the gate, like, this was a wrestling town. This was our environment. And you're right about that. It was me, Philly Phil, and Uncle Kiss, my two boys from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Big shout out to Uncle Kiss and Philly Phil. We trapped the market at Walmart. I mean, we went to Walmart one day, and me and Uncle Kiss took the front door, and Philly Phil was like, yo, man, yo, what do you know about it? I'm going to go take this little door down here at the end. And that was before they were booting us out. And we stood out there for 3 weeks, every day, and passed out the little, them little quarter-page flyers, and we sold half-price tickets. And we sold damn near 200 to 250 of those things in front of that, and that's when I realized, when I looked at all that cash, and I was like, man, we got something here. And I just told everybody, you know what? This is going to be our new venue. It's a nice venue. It's in the center of town. It's an historic place. There used to be wrestling here, and we just came every month, and we ran at that auditorium, and every month it got bigger. And what I'm going back to is, the auditorium used to share, and I remember after that first show, we all walked over to the Montgomery Street pub, and I remember talking to Dave beforehand. We're like, hey, we're going to bring the wrestlers over, and we went in there, and we tore that place up.
No doubt, man. I can't say I was there because I was only 18 or 19, but I'd like to think maybe I was a part of that a little bit. It was a great time, bro, that Montgomery Street pub. Big shout out to them. The stories that Pro Championship Wrestling was telling at this time, it was like, old school Oliver John was the champion. You and Rick, you brought Rick Luxury back, right? I mean, you and Rick kind of had a falling out for a couple years. Now, you brought Rick Luxury back to be your tag team partner, and that was the story you guys were going with, right? What was your idea going into that?
My idea going into that was, I started in this business with Rick, and no matter what me and Rick went through for those 3 years, that was my best friend. The beef wasn't between me and Rick, so for me, I always wanted Rick back here. And in creating a tag team or anything that you do in life, you have to do it with somebody that is like your brother, someone that you travel the road with, someone that you have very good chemistry with, and I have no better chemistry with anybody in this business than Rick. And my idea was bring Rick back in, make him a little primetime, like almost like the flea market version of Mr. Primetime, and play the character off like I'm this very popular guy, and he's in my shadow. And eventually it led to Rick beating Oliver John for the PCW championship.
Before he beat Oliver John, though, Zach, you wrestled old school Oliver John in classic 2 out of 3 falls match. I believe it was at the November show at the Municipal Auditorium, November 2006. What are your memories of that match?
Oh, man.
It's on YouTube. It's on PCW YouTube.
Anytime I stepped in the room with Oliver John, it was always a great experience, because I believe there's a few guys in this business that can tell a story and are as psychologically as good as I am. And he was the master, and I had trained with the master for 10 months, 3 days a week, and that's what got Oliver John back in the business. And we really ruled the road for a long time. Me, Oliver John, AJ Kirsch, Brian Cage, Scotty Aboot. I mean, that was 5 guys that when you put them in a car and you went to APW and you went to Billy Blade's promotion and we traveled around and we went to Cauliflower Alley and we just pretty much from Oroville all the way down to Bakersfield in LA, we were on the road every weekend, and it was just, man, it was a new crew of guys, and it was unbelievable talent, man. I mean, if you look at all of those guys to this day, just Brian Cage with Lucha Underground, been to WWE. I mean, he's making a living off of professional wrestling. AJ Kirsch is the social media giant, and he's just a guy that he doesn't take no for an answer. He goes out and get it. Scotty, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Oliver John, and then you throw me in there. It was like, and we travel these places, and we really went in and dove into APW. And like I said, Roland Alexander, Gabe Ramirez, Robert Thompson, J.J. Perez, Vince DeMarco. I mean, Nate Rules at the time, and your Derek Sanders was a great guy coming up. Kafu, met the world's strongest man, Jody Kristofferson, Jekyll's the Jester, Dave Dutra, Matt Carlos, Dylan Drake, which all those guys I mentioned at the end were just students coming up at the end that I got to play a little mentorship role in and helping them get their careers going. Matt Carlos and Dave Dutra Dutra brought him in to Pink Mink Inc. and let those guys be Team Luxury, which really set the bar for those guys really getting out there and getting established. And it was a really fun time.
So much talent that has come through Pro Championship Wrestling, and you bring up AJ Kirsch, and he's really like the guy that was like your first student, right? The guy that you would probably consider the first guy that you really had your hands on training, and he wrestled you in his first couple matches. And AJ Kirsch, of course, a big name right now. He just won Rock the Promo, Broseph Joe Brody doing his thing. He's, achieved so much. And I'd say his most active time in wrestling was that first year or two in Oroville, Pro Championship Wrestling in Oroville. And you wrestled him. He was in an angle with James Haight where he got his head shaved. Take me through your times working with AJ Kirsch.
I always say there was two, now there's three. I always say there's always been two people that I really enjoyed kicking the shit out of, and I feel I had my best work with. One, Scotty Boot, all-time favorite guy to kick the shit out of, and unbelievable stuff with him. Number two, AJ Kirsch. I never had a bad match with AJ. I actually think some of my best work ever came with AJ Kirsch. At the start, in the middle, and at the end. I mean, we brought him back to... I think it was Off the Chain.
It was Off the Chain, the first Off the Chain.
Very first
Chico.
Off the Chain.
Yeah.
We brought him back to Chico, and I wrestled him there, and I hadn't wrestled him in 2-3 years. Barely even talked to him anymore. This was after Tough Enough, and we went out there and killed it that night too. Ended up going to a double DQ, and then we had an actual match with Team Luxury, Dave Dutra and Matt Carlos, which was good too. And it's like, third guy I like kicking his ass is this kid named Nathan Brick now. I kick shit out of him, and I love every second of it. But AJ Kirsch was just, he was just so easy to work with. And on top of all that, AJ has always been an entertainer. And he's a very good entertainer and a very believable entertainer. And if you can take a very believable entertainer that has good fundamentals and can take an ass whooping, he can cross over with any professional wrestler in the world. And like I said, those times on the road with AJ and those times wrestling AJ and training with AJ, I knew you had something special right here. Because anything that kid did, he put 100% into it, and you can't go into anything without putting 100%. He's the type of guy, they say, hey, you can win a contest on Larry King, and everyone's like, yeah, whatever, we'll never win. AJ's like, no, I'm going to get on there. I'm going to get that interview. Put your Tough Enough video out. You can be on Tough Enough. Everyone's like, nah, never going to happen. AJ's like, no, I'm going to get on Tough Enough. And he did. And this Rock the Promo thing, dating naked, whatever, Rock the Promo. AJ goes for everything he's always been like that. He's been the type of guy. I remember going on road trips, and he'd have the amount of people in the car, and he'd have the mileage and how much gas was per gallon, and he would do all the math, and you'd get in the car with what we call Grandma Kirsch, because he drove so goddamn slow, and he'd go, all right, everybody, it's going to cost $33.44 for this whole trip, and you'd be like, for real? And you would hand him $35, and he would break out his little wallet or whatever he had, his little bag, and he'd pull your change out too, and you'd be like, dude, this kid has the mileage. He wouldn't even veer off of the mileage, because then he'd have to recalculate everything. And that's just AJ, man. He's a professional.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. I'll share a story. He gave me a flyer and introduced me to PCW. You were in Japan. He put me through my first day of training, and then they could have stopped there. The guy was so cool, man. He would let me sleep on his couch and ride with him to training because of the time I didn't have my car. Just a really great guy. And then transitioning, so you worked with AJ. He had some great angles in PCW. You and Rick, man. That was the story. Some say it is still the story of PCW in Oroville. You guys were tag team partners, and then Rick turned on you, and you guys had that build up to Extreme Measures 2008. Now I want to ask you a question, because I don't know the answer to this. When did you win the APW Universal Heavyweight Championship for the first time?
I only won that championship once, and I believe I won that championship in a three-way with Oliver John and Adam Thornstowe at Gym Wars, where both titles were on the line. I believe that was it. I think Adam won the internet that night, and I won the I don't really remember when I won that.
I do remember that match. I think, 2007. It was 2007-ish. I remember the angle. The scum invaded, right? APW, and you were the man, dude. You were the champion. You were running those pro camps every month. What did that feel like, bro? You're here at APW, All Pro Wrestling, the golden child of NorCal wrestling. A lot of people saying, not only are you the champion, man, you're helping train these guys. How did that feel?
It always feels good to get recognized for something that you've worked so hard at, and I think that's what we all strive for in this business, is for that respect, for someone that you respect telling you, hey man, you're here, you're one of the guys, we believe in what you do. And that's always been a thing for me. Like, I hear a lot of these guys and girls, and they go out here and they tell you how much they want it and how much they train and work hard. But for 17 years, 3 days a week, I'm in this ring going over my basics and fundamentals and improving the curriculum and making it better. And one thing I really wanted to do is, a lot of interviews I do, I play off my trainer, Schizo, Anthony Antonucci, like he was this really bad guy. And the fact of the matter is, he was my best friend. And he's an unbelievable person, no matter what he has done in his in the past or where he's at now. That guy spent more time teaching me this business, me, Scotty, James, Rick Luxury, you name it. I just wanted to say, when I think of guys that I wouldn't be here today, and this company wouldn't be here today, you wouldn't be here today, nobody in NorCal Wrestling at the rate it was going, because I believe we really jumped in and caught fire to NorCal Wrestling to really take it to another level. And it wouldn't have been done if it wasn't for a guy who was one of my best friends and did take me under his wing and took me to a place that I could have never gone without him. Like, when he got locked up, he made sure Oliver John was right there ready to continue working with us to get us to that next level. And that's what Anthony did. Mark, that's what he did. He always made sure he was working hard with the guys, and nobody put more time into the growth of NorCal Wrestling than Anthony Schizo Antonucci. And I know I sit here on a lot of these interviews and I say, oh, he was so tough on us, he punched us, he spit on us, and I make him sound like he was a real piece of shit, but the guy wasn't a piece of shit. He was like our brother, he was like our father, father, big brother figure right there. and he took us on the road, and he taught us, and he gave us opportunities. And I just wanted to say, man, I play it off sometimes, and I don't know why I do it. I think because the way we were trained was so physical, and you don't get trained like that anymore, that I always talk about those times, and I don't talk about all the good times that I had with this guy who did so much for me. And that's one thing I want people to know is, bad reputation, you didn't know him. And I actually feel like a piece of shit for all the interviews I've done where I have mentioned him and haven't said positive things about him, except for, what a great trainer, because he was more than a great trainer. He was my mentor. He was my friend. He's a guy I talk to every day on the phone. Now I talk to Rick every day on the phone for hours and hours upon end, but that's the guy I talk to every day on the phone. That's the guy who took PCW from, I wouldn't have gone to APW and been a trainer. I wouldn't have gone to Japan. I wouldn't have gone to all these places. I wouldn't have got looked at as such a good professional wrestler if I didn't have his guidance. So, I mean, first interview ever right here on Mitch Please. I just wanted to, something I've been meaning to do for the longest time was say, that dude is gold, man. He's a great guy.
No, shout out to Schizo, man. I remember last time you were on the show, he actually messaged me and he goes, man, I can't believe Zack buried me so much. And he's like, then I figured out it's just all the work. That's what Schizo told me, man. But no, I hear you. I feel the same way about you, man. The way you trained me. I mean, there was some hard times, but goddamn, bro, you were the funnest guy in the world to hang out with. I mean, when we'd hit the roads for APW, we took that fun trip to King City for Pro Wrestling Revolution in the Impala. I mean, so many great times. And I thought 2007 was a pivotal year for PCW. I thought it was incredibly active, man, hustling so much, getting the word out every show, every month, packed. And then I thought 2008 was a real high point. Like I said, it was the culmination of you and Rick Luxury for the heavyweight title at Extreme Measures.
I believe the only time we sold that auditorium out.
That Rick Luxury MPT match in April of 2008 was the biggest crowd I've ever seen, I've ever been in front of as a performer. Got to be the ring announcer that night. It was incredible. Now, from there, things started to change a little bit with PCW. We had a couple more shows after you won the championship, and then we left Oroville for a little bit. Did you want to elaborate on that?
DUI, man. That's all you can say. All these people, I mean, we go out, we drink, we have a good time, and if we drive, we're eventually going to get caught. And when I got my DUI during that time, my job I had, my shoot job that I had just gotten, actually required that I drive. So I got my license taken away. I was unable to drive. I didn't get an S22. I had to go a year without my license, and we weren't able to get out here and promote and do what we had to do. So we had to take a year off, and that's when you came back and you said, "Hey, let's get the work farm going again." And in taking that year off, I mean, we lost all of our talent, and we had to rebuild this company. And what we had to rebuild with was me, Rick Luxury, Mitch Valentine, Shupe Shellhammer, and Kimmy. So it was and here we are today. And I always told everyone it takes 5 years to establish who your character is and become a good wrestler, and it also takes 5 years to rebuild an organization to bring it back up to what it once was. But I feel it's a lot stronger now than it ever was. Like, we're sitting here at the work farm right now, and I know you're not here very often, but you're walking in this ring and you're seeing guys that a year ago weren't the best workers, and you're seeing your Daniel Callises and you're seeing your Atticus Lynches, and they're starting to really understand what we're doing here. And you're seeing 6 to 7 hot new young prospects in the ring after 6 months of training, some less, that are really starting to pick it up. And we're building the army, and we have the quality team now, and the future looks so bright in what we have here. And it's been a long, tough road, and I've taken a lot of criticism for the way I went about it. But I wouldn't have changed anything to get back to where we are right now, man. We did it the right way, and it was tough. And there's been a lot of tough times and a lot of hardships and a lot of coming out of your own pocket to pay for stuff. But once you get to that point and you start seeing everything pay for itself, and you start bringing home a little bit of a profit, and realize that people are starting to see. I mean, we got Shotzi Blackheart, she comes and trains here. Clayjack from NXT comes and trains here. Desi De Rada, she comes and trains here. Kikiao has come here and trained. I mean, Jacob Fatu comes here and trains. Rick Luxury and Will Roberts still come back to train. It's like this is what these students get every week, or every once a month, twice a month. They get a different person in here that's coming to this work farm to learn this realistic style wrestling that we're really trying to bring back.
No, I feel you, man, and I want to bring it back again. Just want to touch on a few things. Back before we took that break from Oroville, you got in the ring with Strongman John Andersen. Now, Strongman John Andersen now is like he's a monster guy, former ESPN Strongman. He's wrestling in Japan. What were your thoughts, man, getting in there with Strongman John Andersen?
I worked with John so much. Roland came up to me. I remember Roland came up to me and he says, "Hey, I got this guy coming in. You think you can get him trained in 3 months?" And I laughed at Roland. And he's like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like, well, come on, man. You told me 18 months, man. 18 months. Well, this is a special project. This guy's already going to be in New Japan. He's already going to be in AAA. I said, what type of guy is already signed at these places? And he showed me the picture, and he said, I need you and Scotty. I mean, me and Scotty moved in with the guy. Like, we lived with him. We were there training this guy for 3 months on shows, getting him ready. So for me, I knew that if I worked around his weaknesses and exposed his positives, what he was good at, I knew that we could get some good stuff out of it. And it's a fight, man. You
got to give me your impression of Strongman talking to his wife Terry, though. One time.
Terry, where's my burritos, Terry? Oh God, where's my protein, Terry? Kid, I love you, kid. He sounded a little bit like the Sandman, and I mean, he was just such a nice guy, and he was so humble. And coming into this business, it's like the guy doesn't even know who Hulk Hogan is. So he has no passion to be a professional wrestler. This is just something that his manager said, hey, there's a market here, and they found APW, and they came to APW. And one guy I want to credit a lot for through that training was Jody Kristofferson, the War Pig, because he took a lot of the strongman's bumps at training. And sometimes he would get in trouble for taking the bumps at training because he wasn't trained to take those bumps, even though I had pulled out a crash pad at the APW boot camp.
Jody and I we talked about this story on episode 14 of Mitch, Please. Yeah, great story. Go listen to that episode if you want to hear that story. Zach, you wrestled Strongman John Andersen. You wrestled Claudio Castagnoli, a.k.a. Cesaro. You wrestled Christopher Daniels, Petey Williams, Psychosis, Gangrel. I mean, all these names, so much more. Was there any one name in particular that you were getting ready to wrestle and you just were like, man, I can't believe I'm wrestling this guy. I'm really excited. I can't wait. Anyone in particular?
Psychosis, Super Crazy. Those were two guys I was really excited to work. I wrestled a guy I didn't even know he was going to be in Japan or in WWE at the time. It was really one of my best matches at Gym Wars was the Machine Gun Carl Andersen, who's in WWE right now. And when I look back on excitement and guys to work, it was like the most exciting guys for me to work were always right here at that auditorium.
Yeah.
Because I never got the feel of importance like I did when you walked into that municipal auditorium, because when you walked in there, the atmosphere is electric, the audience is so loud, and you just go out there, and it's the one place you can go out there where I feel like the actual performance of what we're doing is done right. The story is there to be told because it's been built up. The psychology is easy to feed off the fans, and your opponent is always somebody that you love and trust, and that's what's fun to me about the business, is getting in the ring with people that I love and trust. Because you can travel the world and you can wrestle all these guys, but at the end of the day, no matter how good they are or how much everybody says, oh, this is the man, if you don't trust your dance partner, it's not fun to me.
No, I totally feel you, man. That Municipal Auditorium is a special place, and of course PCW returns to the Municipal Auditorium for Off the Chain on October 15th. We'll get more into that here coming up. So yeah, PCW took about a year off. There was some stuff going on. There was a show in Clear Lake. You said you had legal issues. I'll be honest as well, man. I had my legal issues. We had some problems, but you know what? Me personally, man, I was so damn hungry and I was 21 years old. I was like, I just want to be a pro wrestler. So I would just drive with you, we'd go wherever, and then I was like looking for a place to put your ring. I was like, we have to get a work farm going again. I got to get trained. It was a selfish reason. I was like, I got to get trained to be a pro wrestler, and you're my trainer. So we were looking everywhere, and then finally we said, you know what? The work farm started right here on this Loma Rica property. Let's just set it back up and do it again. So that's what we did, and it was me, and it was you, and it was Mike Shupe, and it was Kimmy Buttler. And what were you thinking, man? For those are your new prospects, and how did you see the future of PCW panning out?
I really at that point, I wanted to train so much that it became fun to me to train you guys, and then we started getting new students, and it's like, then you came up to me from an idea I had a long time ago, and you said, hey, what about Living the Dream? And we did Live in the Dream, and referee Tim Cooper, Chico Lopez, Propane, Will Roberts, JJ King, the two finalists, to see where they're at today. Atticus Lynch, Lee Perfetto, Daniel Callis came from JJ King. You brought in Chip Smith.
Johnny Metzger was a character, man. You gotta love Johnny Metzger.
Yeah, I do. And Muscle Dog.
So many.
I don't quit on anything. But just to look at the talent that we still have today that came from that work farm, and where everybody went after that, was like, oh man, it was the greatest time of my life. We created the future of this, and we came to Oroville. And, we had some rough times getting going here, but now, referees, Jimmy Mack, Karina Kyle, and then we got all these students. Like right now we got, Pete Encke, Richard Dakin, Chaz, the Rigo and Christian Cole, Isaac Isaacson, Mike French. You see all these guys that are showing up week after week. Pat Abbott's still here working hard. Guys are coming. We just picked up a guy from Panama City who just moved to Chico. He's been wrestling 10 years. He's here, and we're just totally recreating what he's doing, and he's seeing what we got going on here. And to me, that's the greatest thing that you can possibly do in the wrestling industry, man, is create talent that buys into what you're doing, and they jump in full bore, and next thing you know, I'm really excited about the next year. I'm excited about Off the Chain. Last year at Off the Chain was probably the biggest moment of your career. You defeated me for the PCW Heavyweight Championship, and things went downhill from there. But most importantly, man, you're back. You got a good head on your shoulders, and I just see everything that we've worked so hard for, all the fights we've been in, all the arguments we've been in, the literal fist fights, everything that we have done, all the stupid things that we have done. I feel like we're finally in a place where it's going to be good, man.
It is, man. It is, because there's always one constant with PCW, and that's Zack Reeb is the guy that's running the show. And there was a point, man, where I wanted to be that guy so bad. And there was a lot of conflicts, with not really with me and you, but with me and other guys, because there was a 22-year-old kid with a lot of, let's say, confidence, cockiness. Stupid decisions. I mean, there was a lot going on, man. We ran a lot of shows in Chico, California, and I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to be a part of that, man, because I learned so much, and it's all because of you giving me that opportunity. What were some of your favorite memories in Chico wrestling, PCW?
Wrestling AJ Kirsch, wrestling Rick Luxury, James Haight in the steel cage. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of big shows that we had in Chico, and I mean, that was the most impressive thing to me, was no matter what anybody says about who you are or what you did, you took the reins of a company at a young age, and you made it money. You gave us shows, you got us venues, you brought the majority of the talent in for me to train. I mean, that was one of the greatest things, was to have this kid go out and every week bring me somebody new to get my hands on and introduce to the business and train. A lot of people don't know that about you. 85 to 90% of the students that we have to this day are people that you went out and passed out flyers to and personally contacted and got them to the place. I mean, they wouldn't be where they were at. I think the only two guys I can honestly think of that didn't come from you, or a flyer you handed out, was JJ King. Found us for Living the Dream.
And he called me, by the way.
Then he called you. And through JJ King, he brought Daniel Callis 2 weeks later. So I guess pretty much everybody who came in for all that came through you. And that's the thing. Right now we got Isaac Isaacson and Pete Encke. And I think this guy, Pete Encke, is one of the great. He drives 4 hours from Copperopolis. He's got a business. He's got a wife, 4 kids. He drives up here 4 hours from Copperopolis, picks me up, drives me down here. We go to the bar, have a couple drinks. He drives home. He messages me every time he gets home. He gets home at like 4 or 5 in the morning. He sleeps a couple hours, gets up, gets all 4 of his kids up, takes them to school, goes and runs for 2 to 3 miles with a 20-pound weight vest on his chest and his arms. He used to be a fat kid, by the way. And he does all this and then comes back and does it again. And it's guys like Pete Encke that I think every wrestling school is looking for a guy like that, and I'm putting him over because this guy has become one of my closest friends, and he's also one of the hardest workers we have here. He's always motivating people, and that's a name. There's a lot of names here that you're going to have to watch out for, but as far as what it takes to make it in this business, you're going to remember a name like Pete Encke.
It's a great name. And it's the recipe for success, man. You got to put your time in. You got to put hours upon hours upon hours into this if you love it. And it sounds like that's what he's doing. And I'm glad to see that, man, because, you know, we want nothing but great success for Pro Championship Wrestling. Like we said, we got the big Off the Chain event coming up. Off the Chain started in Chico. You brought it up, man. You wrestled AJ Kirsch at Off the Chain. You wrestled James Haight at Off the Chain. The last cage match in PCW was it Off the Chain. It was you and Rick against myself and Shupe Shellhammer. That was a rough time, man. It was supposed to be me and Will Rude wrestling you and Rick, and we ended up having to throw Shupe in there, and it was a great learning experience for me and Shupe. We're learning on the fly. We're going out there in the main event at the Municipal Auditorium with our trainers. What are your thoughts and memories of that?
To me, it was a moment where these two students are stepping up into the main event stage with their two trainers, and you guys went out there and you killed it. And we killed it that night, and we usually all killed it when we went to that Municipal Auditorium. And those are some of the funnest times in my life, man, because it was the rebuilding point. And that's the way I feel about any company, is once you get to the point where it's rebuilding and it's almost rebuilt, there becomes a bigger a demand for what we're doing between the boys and the wrestlers and everything else. And we're seeing so much talent come through here now. I mean, Synn, big shout out to him. When he came here 2 years ago, he was in a tag team. His partner didn't make it back to a show. We threw him out there singles. He just has never looked back, and now he's a champion of this company. A big shout out to Will Roberts for always being there and pushing guys like Pat Abbott and pushing himself to get to the top. A big shout out to JJ King, who gets in this ring and just performs and performs and performs. One of the best performers I've seen here. You know, shout outs go out to, you know, guys like Lee Perfetto, who I never thought was one of the best athletes in the world, but he worked his ass off so hard to get where he was. And the Perfect Kings were a great tag team. The Real Dealers were a great tag team. To see guys like Atticus Lynch really starting to come into his own, and Daniel Callis coming into his own, to see Karina Kyle, female referee, and PCW Karina Kyle, first student to ever graduate in legit 18 months. To see kids like Jimmy Mack coming through and really getting it, and to see all the hard work putting in, see guys like JR the Toe Man, you know what I mean, JR Gonzales. I mean,
shout out to JR. Big
shout out to JR. He's the hardest worker in the company. He's here even when he doesn't have to be here. He's the guy who shows up, breaks the ring down, loads it on the trailer, gets everyone going, unloads it, sets up the ring, works fucking security, and then when he's done, he breaks everything down, gets everything done, and then he gets over to the after party to have a good time. When Work Farm Wars is over, he's the guy who stays here and breaks everything down, and when the show's over, he comes back the next day and takes all the tarps and everything down all on his own. So I mean, it's guys like JR that make this company what it is today, man. And there's a lot of hard workers going into this, man. A lot of hard work.
No doubt, man. And JR also looks sexy as hell doing all that the whole time. Now, two other guys that I want to bring up that you wrestled at a main event level at the Municipal Auditorium and other places, you know, guys like Dylan Drake and Matt Carlos, man. I want to know your thoughts on those guys.
You know, Matt was always one of my favorite guys to wrestle, and Dylan was good. But me and Dylan never really clicked. We clicked character-wise, but we never really clicked in the ring like me and Matt clicked in the ring. And for me at the time, everybody had always said it was a Rick Luxury Mr. Primetime show, which really it was. But you know, I wanted to throw a couple other guys a bone and switch it up a little bit and do something different. And I felt like with those guys, the reason it's always been a PCW-based show with their champion is because we've always been the guys that have been able to really promote the title and really do the promos and be there for the videos and stuff like that. And one thing I want to say is, before all these promos started, the reason all these promos started and everything else, if you really think about it, nobody in indie wrestling was doing promos and consistently showing off that championship. I think the greatest champion this company's ever had, to be honest with you, was Rick Luxury in his heel time. because he really took that belt and ran with it. He started doing promos with that championship every week. And
with the territory guys, man, Drake Nelson and Tom Botch were a big part of that. Go through that real quick. How was that experience, being on TV every week with those guys, with those guys' help? And and then Rick. I think Rick Luxury is the greatest heel I've ever seen.
Definitely the greatest heel I've ever seen, and biggest draw in PCW is a heel, because he's an actual heel, and a lot of people aren't that nowadays. But Drake Nelson, Tom Botch, man, they don't get enough credit for Northern California wrestling as a whole. It started in PCW because I had a real good camera crew at the time that just wasn't getting the job done, and they came with their little cameras at the time, and they said, hey, give us a chance, and I did. And I always thought that was a bad thing at the time, though, was because we were drawing 700 to 800 fans every month, and they were filming us, and it was such a loud, crazy atmosphere. And then they'd go film these other wrestling promotions, and they weren't even getting 100 fans. So to me, it was cool to get that exposure for everybody else, but I also felt like that it really looked like PCW was the big atmosphere to be in. I remember Adam Thornstowe telling me a couple shows ago, he said, if it wasn't for PCW back in the day in Oroville, nobody would even be doing house shows, because everyone was afraid to do house shows. Roland was afraid to do house shows. They were afraid to do it because you lost your ass on the house shows, especially non-fundraiser. And we went out there with our sponsors and our hustle, and we were paying. It became tough for a while there because we're paying guys way more than anybody else could pay them. So a guy goes to work for another promotion. They're like, hey, man, you want to work for us? And he's like, yeah, Derek Sanders. How much? Yeah, $100. Well, I can't pay you $100. Well, Zach can pay me $100. And it became a thing where we're paying these guys once a month more than they're getting paid everywhere else, and we're giving them a bigger audience, exposure, experience, and money. We're giving them all three of those things at one time, and nobody else is able to give them that. And that's what happens at the end of the day.
Now I want to talk about the Road to Work Farm Wars, man, because this was an idea. I mean, you did something similar to this in Yuba City with the old Work Farm. You had your Work Farm shows there, but you had this idea, man. You wanted to run these littler shows at our Work Farm. And it was a hell of a journey, man, because we actually were building a building in Loma Rica. And about halfway through, we decided, let's just rent a building in Oroville. And we did that. And then it still took a little while to get the first Work Farm Wars going. It was, ironically enough, right after Off the Chain in 2014. There is I'll say a frustrating show for me personally. It's the last show in Chico as of now that PCW has produced. But after that show, whatever it was, the motivation, the drive, everything you had in you said, I'm doing this Work Farm Wars, and you set a date and we did it. And it was November 6, 2014, man. First ever Work Farm Wars, Oroville, California, 2305 A Beach Street.
The motivation and the drive was simple. I recently split from my wife on a personal level, and that was really dragging me down. That's why you were running the company for a while, because my wife hated professional wrestling, and I was unable to do as much as I really wanted to do, and I was kind of tied down in that relationship. And then once all that drama happened and that broke off, it was like, now I don't have anybody to tell me what I can and can't do, and I really put my focus back in here. And I think that's what was missing for the longest time from this company, and why it took so long to get us back where we were, is because I wasn't 100% into it. I was there, still footing the bill, still putting in the work, but I wasn't really putting in the work that I should be putting in. And now we're just in a better place, and the future is bright. Off the Chain's coming up. It's gonna be our biggest show yet. Al Snow with Head's gonna be there. I mean, we got a lot of new talent coming in, a lot of nice bodies, a lot of good workers.
I want to talk about it, Zach. I just want to touch on a few more things before we get to that, man. The Work Farm Wars name, idea, everything. That was a tribute to Roland Alexander and APW Gym Wars. Is that right?
Oh, for sure, 100%.
I just wanted to clarify that, man. And you brought it up before we talk about Off the Chain this year. Because it's Mitch, please, man, let's just talk a little bit about Off the Chain last year, man. 2015, my last year actively wrestling as of now. I'm sure I'll get back into it, but man, what a story I thought we told. I mean, the build-up was like a 6-month story, and it was you as the champion, a long reign. You've had the belt for 2 years, and you challenged me because I'm an asshole. And the champion challenges the challenger, and then we build it up, and and you come out dressed like me, and I go out there dressed like you, and President Dick Sexton won't give you the match, and the only way he'll give you the match is if I beat the Classic Connection, who were the tag team champions, one of the greatest tag teams on the planet, in my opinion, in a handicap match. And I couldn't find a partner because nobody likes me, because I'm the biggest asshole on the planet. But you came out, teamed with me, won the match, which leads into Off the Chain 2015. Biggest moment, one of the biggest moments in my life, man. I'll never forget it. It was just, I could go off forever on it, but I want to know how you felt about that, man. Going out there with me, the guy that's been fucking bugging the shit out of you for 10 years, pain in your ass for 10 years, finally wrestling in the main event for the heavyweight title. What'd that feel like?
It was great, man. Like I said, you don't get enough credit for how good a worker you are, and I've always trained with you and been very comfortable with you, and it was just one of those times, man. I felt like you were the guy at the time that needed to end that long streak of me being the champion. I always did feel the way things happen that Chico Lopez might have, he should have been the guy a couple months prior at that auditorium. I thought that would have been a big boost for him. Sometimes things, go a little differently when you look at it at a different perspective later. But for me, it was just like, man, you had all the heat. You're very entertaining, and that build up with Big Paul that I did with Bradley Rotten, that was just me and Bradley Rotten, a manager, wrestler, going back and forth, and that was great. Drew a lot of fans there. Me and Chico, we incorporated Rotten into it once again, which had a good build to it going in. But with you, I knew I wasn't going to have to carry the brunt of the promos and to build up to the videos, man, because you've always just been entertaining, and you've been able to talk since day one. And as a matter of fact, I've never been able to get you to shut up. So I knew that it would be the perfect moment, and the things that I had so much to say about you on camera, and you had so much to rebut on camera, that it just became this thing. Like, even one of my favorite moments was when I threw your personal chair on the ground and in front of the drain back here, and I pissed on it. That's one thing that I've always felt was like, this shit is real. In reality, these kids get on the school bus, they hear cussing, their parents cuss at them, they hear cussing, you don't say, I'm going to kick your butt, I'm going to kick your fucking ass. And I believe where a couple months back, I just told everyone, I said, hey man, Synn's a big black guy that says nigga. And that's who he is. He's not a dark, demented, Undertaker-like character. He is a funny guy. He says these words. And I said, hey, bro, just be yourself. I don't care what you say. And I don't care what these people do or what they say. The realism of real life needs to get over in this. And that's what we're doing. And I feel it all started with me and you, because, we really pushed the bar in these promos and stuff that we did, and we really got things over. I think where the bar really got pushed as far as the entertainment going was that when we put you with Donovan, you guys were just gold, and then we put Rick with you in that whole storyline, man. Just things you guys were doing was just promo-wise untouchable. And Rick, when Rick gets involved in a story, he's the master. He's the maestro. When Rick Luxury is given the opportunity to, and that's the problem too. A lot of people don't know what to do with Zack Reeb in another promotion. A lot of people don't know what to do with Rick Luxury in another promotion. Hell, a lot of people don't know what to do with Donovan Troi in a different promotion. And they sure as hell don't know what to do with a Will Roberts or a JJ King in another promotion. And it's like WWF, they knew what to do with Bret Hart. He was $1 million man in WWF, but WCW had no clue what to do with them. WCW didn't have a clue what to do with any of these guys. That's why guys like Jericho and Big Show crossed over and were such a success, because they don't know what to do with these guys.
Speaking of other promotions, man, let's talk about Gold Rush Pro Wrestling for just a second. You're the current heavyweight champion of Gold Rush Pro Wrestling. Your first match in Gold Rush Pro Wrestling was against me, but your last year or two, man, has been with Boyce LeGrande, just tearing it up, having great matches. What has been some of your favorite experiences in Gold Rush Pro Wrestling down there in Pacifica?
Boyce LeGrande. Yeah. Been told, me and him are real tight right now. When I first walked in there, to be honest with you, I told Sparkey, I said, hey, this guy's been around for a long time. He's old. That's what I originally said. I'm going to shoot on that. I said he was old. And then I got in the ring, and the guy can go. And we became great friends, and we're always messing with each other. And we've been married this last year. That last one we had for the title was, 20 minutes with a great story. That was probably one of the best matches and most fun I've had. And then, just last weekend I got in there with the War Paint. I've known Jody for years, and I never got to wrestle him. When I got in there, and it was just, smooth sailing. I remember a point in the match where I superplexed him off the top out of desperation, just jumped up there and superplexed him. We're laying on the mat, and Jody goes, "It's already time to go home?" He's like, "God, this is so easy. You're amazing." And then right when he hit me with that European, I've always learned to tell people thank you when you cover them, and he hit me with that, and I hooked him, and I said, thank you. And we got backstage, and it was just like, Jody Kristofferson, one of the hardest workers in the business too. Boyce, LeGrande, one of the best workers in the business too. Like, I find myself, if I'm not wrestling him, competing with him, and he's always outshining me. And I mean, he's just one of those guys, man. He's just one of those guys, wealth of knowledge, and he's a great guy, great family man. And I can't say enough about Boyce, and I sure as hell can't say enough about Jody.
Yeah, man, I watched that show live. They, of course, live streamed that Gold Rush Pro Wrestling event out there, and I watched it, man. And, before you guys went out there was everyone was just taking forever on their entrances and lockup and chaining and this and that. I'm like, God, and there's 2 cage matches following you. I'm like, what's that going to do? And, of course, you go out there, and it's just a jump start. And I'm like, and that's what the crowd wanted, man. They were sick of seeing everything taking forever. So
Sparkey.
It was Sparky's idea?
Sparky's idea. Sparky Ballard, not only is he the greatest referee in the game, but he's also, I say it about so many people, but Sparky really is one of the hardest workers, man. He works hard, you know what I mean? And we're at a point in our relationship right now where if Sparky needs something from me, whether it's get in a car before Work Farm Wars, like it just happened, and go all the way to Pacifica for a parade and come back home, I'm going to do that. And sometimes my mind gets cooking. Like, I believe I called him and I was like, "Can't do it, man. It's too much for me." And he called me back and he's like, "Yeah, PT, man. You're thinking too much. You're going to be fine. You can do this. You can make everything.
You're not going to die."
Not going to die. That's where the anxiety kicks in, and a guy like Sparky Ballard can calm me down and reassure me. And he's always been that guy. Sparky's the type of guy that give you the shirt off his back. And he works so hard. Sometimes his ideas are a little extreme and a little cartoony and crazy, but at the end of the day, Sparky Ballard is the type of guy. Our relationship started because he was just booking me, and it wasn't what we had planned. And I told him, I said, "Hey, I will work for you. I want to work for you. You are my boy, but give me a purpose. I need a purpose. This far in my career, I don't just want to show up at a show, wrestle, and go home. There needs to be a reason. I need to get on a microphone. I need to talk. I need to do a promo. I need to build something up. I need to get somebody over. And if I'm unable to do that, then I'm wasting my talent and I'm wasting their time." So for me and Spark are on the same page. I 100% believe in everything he's doing. And I see people out there and they go online and they diss Sparky and they diss some of my boys. And the truth of the matter is, man, if you got a problem with Sparky Ballard, if you got a problem with Rick Luxury, if you got a problem with these guys, if you're gonna bring it up to my face, then you got a problem with me, man. But if you're not gonna have the balls to say something to me, then we can go along with our relationship, because I don't have heat with people. But Sparky and Rick are my brothers, man. I would do anything for both those guys, and I believe in what Sparky Ballard's doing. He's just such a hard worker, such a hard family man, and nobody travels these roads and works harder in this business. Maybe Sparky and Rick, man. Yeah. They're in a direct competition to see who can make the most shows in one weekend, and that's a credit to those guys.
No doubt about it, man. And now I just want to reflect on this last year, man. 2016, it's been a hell of a year for Pro Championship Wrestling. Probably the most events, that I can think of in one year, just non-stop for you guys. You wrestled Adam Thornstowe. Now what you've done, which I love, we're talking 16 years of Mr. Primetime, the top babyface, the good guy, the guy that everybody loves, it's everybody's boy, and you told those fans to go F themselves, and now Mr. Primetime and his Island of Misfit Toys are just the biggest assholes in the company. You got yourself, Mike Shupe, Kimmy, and coming up here at Off the Chain, it looks like possibly the culmination of you and Will Roberts. Now, what's going on with you and Will Roberts, man? Like, is there real heat there? Because, Will's got a knee injury, and you were in the ring and partially responsible for that. What's the story with you and Will Roberts?
Personally, I love Will Roberts. Professionally, just like I say in the ring, which is real, I feel that Will Roberts doesn't utilize his talents that I have taught him enough, and I keep hearing everybody say that he's the next big baby face in this company. And on a shoot, I'm going to make Will Roberts' life as tough as I possibly can to see that if he really is the face. It's a war. When I say it's a war, I mean, can he really handle what I'm going to throw at him verbally and physically to the point where he can win this war? And if he can win this war and prove to me that he is the next face, the next guy of Pro Championship Wrestling, then, like I said, I'll have no problem stepping down. But like I said, I started this company in 1999. This has been my life. And the real shoot on everything is, if somebody's going to take my spot and keep this company going, not when I'm gone, but when I'm not in that ring as that main performer, they're going to have to prove to me that they are that guy, and they're going to have to go through hell to do it. So there is some legit heat between me and Will Roberts right now, because like I said, I feel that he has all the potential in the world, whether nobody else believed in him or not. I always have, and if he's willing to go toe-to-toe with me all the way through this war of attrition, maybe he is the guy for it.
And it's going down in a steel cage at Off the Chain, October 15th at the Oroville Municipal Auditorium.
We'll leave you with this. The face of professional wrestling and Pro Championship Wrestling, let's end on this note. The game as we know it in this company is all going to change next Saturday at the Oroville Municipal Auditorium, PCW's biggest show. Something is going to happen at Off the Chain that is going to change the face of Pro Championship Wrestling forever.
Zack Primetime Reeb, thanks for coming on the show.
You know what time it is.
I think everybody knows what time it is. Zack Reeb, thank you very much for coming back on the show, man. What a story. So much knowledge and so much passion. Zack Reeb, Pro Championship Wrestling. If you want to train to be a pro wrestler, call him up at 530-315-4020 and get to the PCW Work Farm. But remember, work hard or stay home. Now, as we have mentioned, Off the Chain 2016 is coming this Saturday at the Oroville Municipal Auditorium. It's a stacked card. Of course, the big thing is the fact that Al Snow is going to be there, and he's bringing head. And he's actually going to be doing a seminar that day at 3 p.m. So to anybody out there that is interested in learning and getting better in the world of professional wrestling, $50 is all it's going to cost you to learn from Al Snow. He's a guy that's been all over the world, and he's been a big star, and he's still a big star. And he's going to be teaming up later that night, with Carl Fredericks and Jacob Fatu. And he's going to be taking on Atticus Lynch and his tag team partner, I'm sorry, I'm not sure the guy's name, and then Chico Lopez as well. So, it's going to be a big 6-man tag team match with Al Snow and some of your PCW, alumni. It's going to be a great match. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great seminar. So that's a big part of Off the Chain this year, and I encourage everyone, like I said, take that $50 and get some serious knowledge from Al Snow. Also, we're going to have Desi De Rada versus Shotzi Blackheart, and that's going to be a great women's match. So you have that going on. Of course, the PCW Tag Team Championships are going to be up for grabs as the Classic Connection are challenged by the Sky Brothers. So that'll be fun. The War Pig Jody Kristofferson is going to go one-on-one with Stevie T. So that'll be a nice singles match. And then the Nightmare Synn, the new PCW Heavyweight Champion. He's going to have his first title defense going up against the Dynamite Division Champion of Gold Rush Pro Wrestling, Boyce LeGrande. That's going to be a great match as well. And you got your two big main events, your two big cage matches, steel cage matches. First time in 3 years in PCW. First one, it's going to be Rick Luxury and JJ King. And I have no doubt those guys are going to go all out. And it might get bloody and it might get crazy. And I'm looking forward to that one. Also, Will Roberts, Zack Primetime Reeb. getting in that steel cage. You know, Will Roberts is he takes a lot of risks, man. That guy has a lot of heart. He has a lot of passion, and there's no lengths that he won't go to entertain the fans. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does, what he pulls out. First time I believe he's ever been in a steel cage. Same with JJ King. You know, these guys are going into the steel cage for the first time against, you know, steel cage match veterans. So it's going to be exciting. I'm sure those guys are feeling the nerves. They're going to be feeling them on Saturday, and I'm going to be there live, and I'm really looking forward to it. I want to see what's going to happen with Zack Reeb and the Island Misfit Toys, and just everything that's going on. Guys, check that out. Pro Championship Wrestling Off the Chain this Saturday, October 15th, Oroville Municipal Auditorium. Tickets are almost sold out, so get them while you can, where you can, and how you can, because it's time. Now, I also want to talk about this Sunday. A good friend of mine, Jason Allen and Eve Hamilton, are going to be putting on a improv event in Chico at the Women's Club. Now, this is an all-ages event, but the content is a little risky. So, you know, you can bring your kids, but it's going to be a little crazy. I don't know. I don't know what these guys are going to do. I've never seen them perform, so I believe it's only like $6 to get in, and that's at the Women's Club. It starts at 7 o'clock, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And best of luck to Jason Eve and Hank Duke and everybody involved with that. Again, improv show, Chico Women's Club, this Sunday, October 16th at 7 o'clock. Now, you can't forget also, and I'm a plug machine right now, but, you know, a performing group that's very near and dear to my heart, of course, is the House Cats. And I'm going to plug them again, guys, every Wednesday. Italian Garden in Paradise. Every Saturday, Smoky Mountain Steakhouse in Paradise. If you want some great live music, check them out. Whew. All right, deep breath. The plugs are out of the way. The show is almost over. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you guys have enjoyed what you've heard, and I look forward to doing this again. Again, you know, this is going to be once a month. It's going to be a very special podcast. This is not a daily or a weekly podcast. This is something that, you know, I pour my heart out to. I give it all I have, but I only have so much time to give it, and I want to build an audience, and I want to make this special. So it's going to continue to be once a month, but I'm going to continue to bring you the best possible show I can. As I close here, I want to shout out a few things. You know, Monday Night Raw was last night as I record this, and it was great to see guys like Matt Carlos and Will Cuevas and Mikey Gordon and Marcus Lewis and Holodead getting these opportunities with WWE, because those guys that I just mentioned are actually really nice people and really hungry and humble, and they do it right and they get rewarded. So that was really awesome to see. I'm really proud of those guys. And, I mean, I don't know what else I can say. I wish them the best. I hope that opened up a lot of doors for them. And as for me, I don't know what's going to happen next, guys. I've been talking about this surgery. I'm scheduled October 26th. I finally have a surgery date. I'm very, very nervous about it. But it's going to happen. I know I keep saying that, right? But it's like, it's going down, and, oh man, I've just never been more nervous about something happening in my life. And I know I'm totally overreacting because that's what I do. But it was great, though. I want to just share this quick story before I get out of here. Last week, I returned to the PCW Work Farm, and I was able to watch a lot of these young students that Zach was mentioning earlier in the show. And it was great to see, man, just these young, hungry guys that are taking it serious and giving it their all. And then I was privileged enough to get in the ring and kind of go through the progressional drills with them, you know, the rolls and the bumps. And I hadn't done that in almost a year, and it felt amazing. It didn't feel so great the next day, but there's just no better outlet than getting in that ring and moving around and bumping. And it's just, it's something that I'm never going to completely get away from. I will be back. It's gonna be, though, when I'm ready. So it might not be soon, because when I'm coming back in the ring, because people keep asking me this, I'm gonna come back when I'm ready, when I'm financially ready, when I'm physically ready, when I'm mentally ready, when I'm ready to give it everything I have and I have no excuses or anything holding me down, I will be back in that wrestling ring. So, until then, thank you guys for listening to Mitch. Please give us a share, give us a like, subscribe to the Mitch Valentine YouTube channel, and stay pure.